753-773. So today is midterm election day. And as always, I like talking to Craig Huey about voting and what's going on and how to deal with what's all this stuff, right? Craig is here. And Craig Huey is the author of the Huey Report. Craig voted the Huey Report. Craig's voter guides show people how to vote biblically. Craig, welcome to the show.
Jesse, it's great to be back with you.
Yes, sir. Good to have you back, man. Before I get into my questionings, what do you think about what has happened in our country in the last couple of years and what's going on now, and what do you expect to happen today?
Well, Jesse, I think if anybody looks around and they look back just 8 years ago, the difference between 8 years ago and today, of what you were talking about, good versus evil, about people operating in a biblical worldview, the difference is huge. When we take a look at the local level, and we see the war on parents that are going on in school boards and in local elections. When we take a look on the state level and we see all the legislation that basically is undermining parental authority, religious liberty. We take a look at the judges. You know, this election, judges are on the ballot, Jesse, and these judges have been at war with Christianity and, of course, on the national level. From the Department of Justice, from the State Department, the FBI, the Department of Education, all these have been undermining biblical values and trying to really transform our culture, transform our politics, transform our economy by the use of government. So this election, for anybody who calls on the name of Jesus Christ, they have to vote their biblical values. And to sit out the election and allow the socialists and the secularists to control the election would be a mistake and wrong. You know, as a Christian, your vote is an act of love. As a Christian, you're an ambassador for Christ. And we have the incredible freedom in America to be able to go to the poll and be able to vote our values. So we got to vote. And we got to vote our values, and we got to make sure we don't vote against our values.
How does one vote his or her value when you don't really know the person that you're voting for? Because politicians are not going to be honest about their values, none of them. And how would you know how to do that?
Yes, well, you know, everybody who's watching and listening right now knows that on the ballot today is the high cost of living and how it's skyrocketing, and going to the market and buying clothes, whatever it might be, you're seeing 20-30% increases in prices, inflation. I mean, everybody knows when they fill up their gas tank and they're paying outrageous prices. These are all issues that have a moral backing to it, because it's really a product of inflation, which is the most immoral tax of all. It's caused by the government overspending. It's caused by the government printing money. And the fact is, the value of the dollar goes down, prices rise. It's an unseen tax. But also on the ballot, Jesse, is the issue of protection of life. Yeah. And the whole issue of abortion has become centered to this election. But also on the ballot is religious liberty and our rights as Christians and people of faith to live our lives and spread the gospel, and to worship freely. That's under attack. On the ballot is indoctrination in the schools with pornography and critical race theory and other things being taught. And on the ballot is the persecuted church worldwide, that in the last 2 years, we have abandoned the persecuted church across the world.
Yeah.
And these are just a few of the things. Right now, the IRS is about ready to do a war on churches. Right now, what we have is the DOJ and the FBI arresting conservatives and Christians, pro-life leaders, actually arresting them to try to silence their voices. That's why we have to go to the poll. We can't sit this out. And so many elections, this election, there'll be literally 500 to 1,000 races that are going on right now that'll be won by less than 1,500 votes, the size of a church. You're going to have across America some races as close as 1 to 10 votes. You write on your phone, your text numbers that you have, write on your phone the emails that you have, your neighbors, people in your small Bible studies, the people in your church. You could be a warrior today to bring out 2, 3, 4, 5 people that could change the election.
I saw something that happened, and I thought it was interesting this year, is the Supreme Court decided to turn the abortion issue back over to the states.
Yes.
And to let the people decide, right? But then some of the statistics or polls revealed that when they did that, more women registered to vote because they love killing the man's children in the womb.
That's correct.
Why did that happen?
Well, it's today's politics, Jesse. You know, if you go back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, politics wasn't too much different than the start of the United States, where it was candidates running, and what was their policy? They ran on policy. They ran on personality. In the 1960s with Richard Nixon and President Kennedy, it was a matter of who looked best on TV.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a matter of who has the best radio commercials, TV commercials, more signs. That's all gone today. The person who is able to get out the vote, to mobilize people, that was started under President Obama. He was a community organizer. He put it on a national level. He changed the nature of politics. So today, who is able to organize, identify their voters, and get them out to the poll, they're the ones who are going to win. It's not how they look, not what they stand on. It's not how much money they have for TV commercials. It's who gets to the polls, who actually gets their people to vote. So they discovered that the Democrats looked around and said, we're being wiped out because people are angry at these gas prices, angry at the prices of inflation. They're disappointed at seeing the different policies in a world in chaos and a nation where they're attacking parents who are standing up for truth. They saw things slipping away. And so what could they do? Well, they've concentrated on 2 issues. The threat to democracy if somebody votes conservative, and then abortion. They have used the abortion issue to scare women that even if they had a medical emergency, they wouldn't have an abortion, which is a lie.
But why don't women have sense enough to know that that's a lie? I mean, you have to be on pot not to know that that's a lie. What's wrong? Can you stay for a minute?
Yes.
Okay, I want to know what's wrong with women that they believe a lie like that.
Okay.
I got to take a quick break. 888-7753. 773. Back in a moment. Craig, why do women believe that about abortion thing? If they don't, I mean, why would they fall for it?
Well, what you have is misinformation or disinformation. The left is always using those terms, but what they do is they spread a lie. They take a lie and they keep repeating that lie. And there's a certain group of people who believe it's the truth. You can go down, talk to college students, talk to housewives, talk to different women, different places, and you'll find a certain percentage who'll say that a woman's going to die if they give birth. And they're convinced of that. And so that's the base that the Democrats want to get out to vote. They want to control you and me and everybody watching with a minority vote by getting them out to the poll more than conservatives, Republicans, Christians, and libertarians. They want to make sure that those people don't vote, but the others do. And so the bottom line is this. What now is on the ballot is the right to life. That on the ballot is abortion. Every Democrat candidate has made that their number one issue.
Yeah.
The Republicans are talking about survival in an age of inflation. The Democrats are talking about killing children. In California, on the ballot is Proposition 1, which not only allows for the killing of a baby up to birth, but even if that baby is accidentally born in a botched abortion alive, they could kill the baby. It's infanticide, Jesse.
Yeah.
It's infanticide in California, and it's also on the ballot in a couple of other states. And here's the thing. I can tell you this, that we need to have the church, we need to have the politicians, we need to have people promoting a culture of adoption. You know, Jesse, I am standing here talking to you right now because when I was born, there was protection of the unborn. You see, I was adopted. And if I had not had those laws in place when I was born, I would have been killed. I would not have had my family. I would not have had my ministry. I wouldn't have had any of this. I thank God for my adopted parents. I thank God for my birth mother who gave me up for adoption. And I got to tell you, this to me is an issue that every Christian should want to go to the poll for and vote their values, and sitting at home and allowing abortion to dominate in your by your legislator or on a proposition is morally wrong. They need to go out to vote just for that.
Yeah.
But there's so much more on the ballot. That's why we put together electionforum.org, which lists all the candidates, and it gives a rating so you know how to vote your values.
Yeah.
And it's a way of making sure you vote for the right candidate.
I want to ask you real quickly about a couple of the ballot measures, because
Yes.
they really can confuse you about that. They
Yes.
can put it out there as though it mean one thing, but it really meant something else, right?
That's correct.
For example, I want to ask you about the dialysis clinic requirement initiative.
Yes.
Should we vote no or yes on that?
We should vote no on that, Jesse, because this is the fourth time it's on the ballot. What it is, it's the SEIU and the unions who want to put the private clinics out of business. What we need to be doing is trying to get more competition to lower prices and to create innovation, not have it all be government run and union run. And so they're trying to destroy the private clinics. We got to vote no on this.
And I wanted to ask you about, so that's no on that. So that's ballot measure 29, I believe, right? 29.
Yes.
I want to ask you about another one that they made look so nice. Legalizes sports betting on American Indian land.
Oh my gosh. Jesse, everybody who has got a cell phone and goes on Facebook or Google, anybody who's got a TV or radio, they're seeing these commercials. They're spending literally over $100 million to win and over $100 million to defeat it. And I'm saying on both betting ones to vote no, not because you're voting against gambling, but both of the propositions are corruption. One's put out by the Indian casinos to stop competition. The other one's put out by the private casinos to stop the Indians. and it sets up bureaucracy, and it sounds great. Oh, we're going to be able to help the homeless. Oh,
Right.
they always put in something to make it sound like, oh my gosh, we're going to actually be able to help. No, both are wrong. Both need to be voted down.
And so this other one you was talking about is the first one is 26 about the Indian thing, and the other one is legalizing sports betting and revenues for homelessness prevention fund initiative. That's also sweet.
It's fraud. It's fraud.
Amazing. How about arts and music, K through 12, educational funding initiative?
So this is a California initiative that sounds good. Oh my gosh, we love music. Let's have the kids play music. What it does, it sends more money into the schools, Jesse, where the kids can't read.
Yeah.
They can't write. Schools where all the money goes to the administrators and to the teachers union and is lost on the kids. And they're more interested in teaching indoctrination. And here's the thing, Jesse, they teach this in not only history and government, but English, but not only English and science, not only science, but in biology. And yes, if they have teachers in music, they'd be teaching in music. What it is, it grows the size of government. It is a indirect tax on every worker here because it's going to be more money out of the general budget. But also, who's putting up all the money for this? Millions are being spent to pass this. By who? The manufacturers of music instruments.
Oh.
Because they know the money will go to them, and quite frankly, mainly to the teachers and teachers union. So I'm saying no on this. It's a very corrupt bill, no matter how good it sounds.
I gotta ask, you talk about one group and you call them the nuns, Nones,
Yes.
or people that don't believe anything. Explain that.
Yes. So when I talk about nuns, it's not the ladies with the black
Right.
It's NONES, and basically it's this. There's a group of people, mainly millennials. If you've got listeners who are parents or grandparents, their kids are probably nuns. A nun says, I'm not a Christian, I'm not a Buddhist, I'm not a Catholic, I'm not a Hindu, I'm not an atheist or agnostic. I'm nothing. You can be what you want to be, and I'll be what I want to be. It's all good. And nuns is a rejection of Christianity and values. Almost 90% of them vote progressive left, pro-socialist, and what I would call against Christian values. Now, here's the thing, Jesse. About 10 years ago, when I was talking about the nuns as a rising phenomena, they were about 5% of the population. Today, they're about 30% of the population. They're the fastest growing segment, and they're the fastest growing voter bloc. They have surpassed the evangelical voter bloc. More nuns vote than evangelicals. And of course, evangelicals is a shame because, Jesse, almost half of the people in all the churches are not registered to vote. And out of those registered to vote, probably half of those are not going to vote this midterm. It's a shame on the pastors, a shame on the church.
That's amazing. One last thing I think, Craig, is we have illegal aliens coming across the border like never before, and they're coming from everywhere.
Yes.
And they're bringing drugs and crime, and the cartels are taking over the borders.
Yes.
I read, I believe that just one of your sons at least was shot by a gangbanger or something like that, right?
Right.
What do you think about the fact that our government is inviting these people in and then they're pretending that they are not doing it? What's the solution to that?
It goes back to they say one thing, but they're actually doing something else.
Right.
it's the big lie being told by the government officials. The borders are open. The drugs are coming in. They've identified terrorists coming in
Yeah.
from the Middle East and countries where they're on the terror list. This is a tragedy that for the next 10 years is going to dramatically affect America. That's on the ballot to turn that off, to turn off that spigot. But the fact is, there's, we are in danger. It's bad government policy. That's why we got to elect a Congress, a Senate, and governors and legislators that are going to protect us from this. And the one good thing I'll say about this, you always look for what can be redeemed from this, and that is Hispanics who are coming over, for the most part, have conservative Christian values.
Yeah.
And they are receptive to the gospel. The evangelical Hispanics have been voting 90% Christian. And what we find, I spoke to a pastor's conference of 1,000 pastors, Jesse, and they were all Hispanic, all had Hispanic fellowships. The sadness to me was when we talked about the Christian roots of America, none of them knew about it. But when we talked about the issues, when we talked about the candidates, they were all conservative. They wanted to stop socialism. They wanted to stop abortion. They wanted to protect religious liberty. They didn't understand our history. And that's one of the key things. The schools have purposely tried to destroy American history.
Yeah.
And suppress the idea of our Christian roots. We need to be a people who understand that and really proclaim it. And we need to be able to proclaim it to the Hispanic community.
Absolutely. I want to ask, and then I have to run here. White people are hated, especially white Christian men and women, especially white men. And they outwardly say it out loud.
Yeah,
They want to get rid of white people, critical race theory, and they're just saying these things, and white people are not speaking up about it. Number one, why are white people so hated, and why is it that they are not speaking up and saying it's not true or something?
Well, Jesse, two good questions. The first one is basically what you have is a Marxist-based racism. They haven't been able to because of American prosperity, the free enterprise system has created the greatest rise of wealth in the history of the world. And the poorest people here in America have the opportunity not only to rise, but in comparison, they're wealthy. The fact is that we have an incredible society of opportunity. So class warfare, the traditional Marxism has not worked, but dividing the races, creating race hatred, and animosity of races, that has been a Marxist socialist plan, and it's working, and it's infiltrated the schools, and it's on the lips of the politicians, and it's poison to our society, and it's wrong. And that's where I'm so proud of parents who have taken the time to learn this and be able to stand up at school board meetings to tell the truth. Now, why won't a white person try to defend themselves?
Yes.
Because they're afraid of being called a racist.
Why?
Because it's so common, especially if you're a Christian, to be called a hater, an extremist, a conspiracy theorist, but the idea of being a racist, it's almost equivalent to being called a rapist. It's like an atom bomb to throw at somebody, and you don't want that. And so there's fear of fighting back, fear of defending, saying, it's not that I'm white, it's that I'm telling you the truth. This is hatred. This is wrong. We need to love one another. We need to have people get along together, and we can't divide our society by race any more than we can divide it by class. We need to be a people who are forward-looking, relying upon the true and living God, understanding that all men are created equal, understand that that before God, that's who we stand as our witness and as our salvation.
Can you be a son or a daughter of God and have fear?
Well, biblically you can't, but people do. I think the pandemic showed it. One of the saddest things was seeing people in churches afraid and having their masks on and hiding and moving about and afraid and singing the song, "I'm no longer a slave to fear, I am a child of God." Well, there's a contradiction, but as a Christian, our trust is in Him.
Yeah.
And He'll cast out that fear. And so we need to be a people who are bold and courageous. That's what a Christian will be.
So if you do have fear, is that a sign of not being a son or a daughter of God?
I would say it's a sign that biblically you're not understanding what the Word of God says, and spiritually the Holy Spirit needs to do a work in your life to give you that courage.
Do you love white people?
Do I love white people?
Yes.
I love all people with the love of my Lord, and I call out sin if I see it. I call out injustice or wrong if I see it. But I do have a love for white, and I have a love for Asians, for Hispanics, for blacks.
Do you love white people?
I love white people as well as I love all people.
I want to know, when I ask, and the reason I ask you that because I've noticed I ask a lot of white people, do you love white people, right?
It's hard to say.
I'm sorry?
It's hard to say because it sounds, to me, it's odd. I grew up with the idea that we're trying to love everyone. I've grown up with the idea that all people are equal. I've grown up with the idea that we need to have a society that promotes opportunity for all. And then I hear this division by race being promoted, and if you don't fall in line with it, you're a racist.
But what I noticed, Craig, is that if I ask whites, do you love black people or other people, they say yes.
Yeah.
And they won't add other colors. But if I ask, do you love whites, they won't just say yes. They have to say, I love all people.
Jesse, you're right. And for me, that was one of the hardest questions I've gotten in years.
Wow. That's amazing. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Did you know before this moment it was hard for you to say, yes, I love white people without adding everybody else?
I have to add everybody else. Otherwise, I feel like I'm standing as a white supremacist, and I'll be labeled a white supremacist.
What a mess.
Yes.
Craig, tell the folks how to get your voting guide into your website and whatever you're doing.
Right. All you need to do is go to electionforum.org. Electionforum.org. We've got all the judges nationwide. So you don't know how to vote for a judge. These judges can be dangerous.
Yeah.
You'll know how to vote for a judge. We have governor, all the state offices, the county offices, the local offices on the voter guide. So electionforum.org, hit the voter guide, put in your county, and you'll see how to vote for, not against your values.
I really recommend your voter guide. I've been using it for a while now, and so I totally recommend it to people. And thank you for what you do, and thanks for coming on. I know you're a busy man out there, and I definitely appreciate it.
Very good, Jesse. Thank you, and Lord bless everyone.
You too. Thank you. Amazing. CraigHuey.com.